You're watching The New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more conversations and articles, please visit thenewstack.io. Now on with the show.
Port's founding team has over 10 years of hands-on DevX expertise. Port believes every developer deserves a best-in-class experience while coding and bringing code to production.
Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the New Stack Makers podcast. This is Joab Jackson, your host for this interview, and today we're going to be talking about platform engineering. There's a lot of buzz around platform engineering and the supposed benefits it can bring both to developers and to the company as well. But we just started hearing about this late last year, and we're still getting up to speed on what it is. So we decided to talk to our friends over at Port to get a little bit more of a introduction. Today on the episode, we have Zohar Einy. He is the CEO of Port, and we're going to find out why Port is important for platform engineering and how to implement it and other great things around this emerging concept. Zohar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, let's get up to speed. Now, to be honest, I haven't heard of Port before last year. What is Port? How did it come about? And what are your specialties?
Yeah, so basically Port is the first no-code internal developer portal. So basically, by using Port, you can build a holistic IDP, meaning that you can build like a software catalog, bring your own data model to it using the no-code building blocks, as well as ensuring software maturity, allowing developers with self-service actions, workflow automations, and so on. And basically, developers use Port in order to consume everything DevOps and infra in a self-service manner, while the platform engineering are the ones that are responsible to build this kind of internal portal for them.
All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind, and we're going to circle back around with the no code angle in a bit. But first of all, what is your definition of platform engineering?
Yeah, so I really think that, there is a lot of going on about DevOps and platform engineering and the relationship between the two, right? So many people are talking about the fact that DevOps is dead, right? So I think this brought a lot of into the conversation, but I really think that if we talk about it like seriously for a sec, I don't think that DevOps is dead, but I think it's evolving, right? So I think like DevOps is more of a culture of ownership, right? Like ideally, it's about being the full owner, that you have the full control over the development lifecycle of an application or a service, either if you are a team or a developer, right? So, but to gain this full ownership, you need a deep ops knowledge, right? So, platform engineering is about creating this developer independence by providing developers with off-the-shelf services or tasks that are easy to consume, right? So they can use it in order to build the life cycle they want as an independent unit. One of the main tools used by platform engineering is the developer portal. So I don't think like DevOps is dead, but I do think that it will become far more efficient and interesting as platform engineering evolves.
So wait a minute here. So DevOps is the onus is on the developer to own the whole life cycle, and platform engineering is the operations side of a company, giving developers a standardized, tool set and platform to which they build their apps.
Exactly. Like you'll have platform engineering, which provides like all the different services that developers need in order to be owners of their application. And as part of the development team, they might have someone with a DevOps knowledge, a DevOps engineer, or either another engineer that manage the ops side of application, and they will be the ones that will use the services provided by the platform engineering. And this is being done by an IDP, essentially.
Nice, nice. IDP is an internal developer platform. Now, we've had internal developer portals for years now. What is the difference between the two?
Yeah, so there is a lot of going on. Some people say portal, platform. What's the differences between the two? So
Uh,
I think there is a big difference, and the short answer is that both portal and platform coexist, right? But they are two very different things. So
mhm.
imagine the platform as all of your existing implementations of DevOps, right? CI/CD, Kubernetes, pipelines, GitOps, and so on and so forth. So this is all the platform side, some kind of reusable components that are all your DevOps implementation. And the developer
Okay.
portal is about making all these reusable components and automations accessible and consumable for your organization, right? So
Hmm.
allowing people to interact with it and to consume it without the cognitive load of understanding every bit and byte behind the scenes, right? So by accessible, I mean providing this layer of visibility into the software components like microservices, environments,
Mhm.
deployments, different DevOps processes with this visibility layer. And by consumable, which is the second part of the IDP, is allowing them to interact with the portal by using self-service actions, right? So they can perform all kind of actions directly from the portal and get everything that they need from provisioning a microservice, an environment, a permissions to a cloud resource, and it varies by using the self-service part of the portal.
All right, terrific, terrific. So this sounds a bit like a software catalog. This collection of microservices. Is this a software catalog, or how do I describe it?
Yeah, so there's a couple of definitions. So there is the software catalog and the microservice catalog. Um,
Okay.
but I really think that both of them are not comparable, right? So a microservice catalog is just like one instance of a software catalog.
Mhm.
So a microservice catalog covers only a subset of what's inside a broader software catalog. So as a
Mhm.
result, microservice catalog is usually very opinionated, showing just a list of microservices and their respective metadata about their lifecycle. But a software
Huh.
catalog, yeah, is much more than that because we live in a little bit more complex world, right? You want to bring more things into the software catalog and bring your own data
Yeah.
model into it. So, you would like to also reflect development environment and cloud resources and permissions and many more things that are related to your organization and things that speaks your language and like custom entities into the catalog. So it's really important to think about the software catalog as something that you can bring your data model into it and to reflect the catalog that you need for your organization. So a software catalog is a more generic, more a broader way to see a catalog, and the microservice
Mhm.
catalog is just like one shape or form of one use or of one specific use case.
All right, terrific, terrific. Um, so how does this developer self-service work? I'm a developer. I show up in the morning. I maybe turn on Visual Studio or whatever development environment I have. How does the self-service? How do I build an app through self-service? Let's put it that way. And you can use. Please feel free to use Port's own platform as an example.
Right. Okay, so first of all, self-service actions is not like just like creating an application or anything like that. There are many
Okay.
different user flows or developers flows that leads them into using self-service, right? So it can be really anything.
Mhm.
So I saw customers that are using self-service to provision development environment or allowing developers to get permissions to cloud resources or to make the deployment directly from port and so on and so forth. So they are using port as their portal in order to consume all these services, while they are using port's solution and integrate it with their existing platform, right? So they want to be the owners, like the platform team wants to be the owners of how things is going on behind the scenes, right?
Right.
So they use Port in order to create the experience for their users, either like provisioning a microservice or anything of the examples that I just gave. and they tell Port what automation behind the scenes they would like us to leverage because they already have it. They already implemented a lot of things. So we want to empower them, these automations with the portal to make it accessible for developers. And thus, it allows the organization to democratize all the existing automations as part of their platform and giving developers a way to use it.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. You mentioned automation. What is workflow automation?
Yeah, so this is actually a very interesting part, I think, that is we see is more discussed nowadays. So, many people think about IDP as something that is being used by the developers, right? But
Yeah.
we saw that an IDP is not only used by the developers, it's also used by DevOps because they also need a software catalog. But the third persona, which is very interesting, is the machines themselves, right? They're also users of the
Huh.
platform. So
Right.
imagine
Yeah.
so imagine let's take a machine for example, right? It can be a CI/CD job that wants to
Yeah.
make a CD process, right, or a build process. So they also want to know like what is the maturity level of a service before they make the deployment, right? So they want to query port with one API call and say, hey, is this maturity level sufficient enough, right? If not, fail the build and let the developer knows it got failed, giving them like a very clear reason why. And if not, make it successful. So this is just like one example of an automation you can build on top of your software catalog, but you can also like automatically revoke resources like permissions, right? So if you have a TTL for a resource in the catalog, it can be automatically revoked by get notified by port that the TTL got to zero and run an automation behind the scenes that auto terminates it for you, right? So you don't have to have like sketchy databases or glue code all around to make a cleanup for your resources. So it's a big driver for both for cost reduction and security best practices.
So, and who's in charge of building out these machine workflows? You said that might be DevOps specifically, not so much a developer or the administrator. Am
Right.
I understanding that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. So the ones that will define the workflow automation can be either the application owner in the team,
Mm-hmm.
so the one that is responsible for creating the lifecycle of the application. So they can use it in order to make queries against the software catalog to build the automation that they want. And it can also be the
Okay.
platform engineering team themselves setting up the right automations to make sure that the organization is using the platform with the right mindset that fits with the organizational standards in terms of compliance, security, and performance aspects.
Traditionally, developers have been very individualistic in choosing their tools.
Yeah.
They've shown a strong preference for the tools they want. How do you accommodate that? How does the platform accommodate that or address this kind of developer preference?
Right. So this is, first of all, as a developer, this is absolutely true. Like naturally you want to gain like the control of everything. I want to choose the technologies. I want to be responsible. I want to know everything about anything, right?
Hmm.
So I think platform engineering came to help the developers choose how much they want to get in depth of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
essentially, developers are being provided with a good platform, so they can be provided with really good services off the shelf that they would like to
Hmm.
use, and this will help them gaining trust of the things that they get out of the box, right? But if they want to know more about like what is happening behind the scenes, how this automation took place, how this data got into the software catalog, so a well-designed portal can reflect them with the information that they want as a curious
Hmm.
persona, right? And it's all about trust. Essentially, you want to gain trust from your developers, so you need to give them the visibility into what happens behind the scenes, but not overload with too much information, making them overloaded again.
So it's almost by refining the palette to just the needed tools. It actually gives developers a certain amount of freedom because they don't have to worry about bringing in the kitchen sink and everything else. Here's the tools they work with. and then they could concentrate on doing their job.
Exactly. And I also think that it's perfectly okay if a developer wants to contribute to the platform that is
Mhm.
being managed within the organization, right? So I think the platform team needs to be open to suggestion from the developers of what needs to be inside the platform, but they don't. They do need to stay in control and not giving too much freedom because essentially they need to think like product managers, and sometimes product managers knows a little bit better what is right or wrong for their users.
So that sounds like some good benefits for the developer, but there's also the operations team who are in charge of running the external facing platform. And I would imagine platform engineering, this approach offers them benefits as well.
Right. Essentially, what we saw is that the IDP is also being used by the operations team, the DevOps team, because
Mhm.
the developers get a software catalog with a simplified visibility layer that gets them into the good understanding of what's going on. But the DevOps team
Mhm.
also manage a lot of different assets. So the software catalog of the DevOps is much more complex and more granular than a developer portal catalog. But they also
Oh,
need to make sense and to bring order into their software components. And sometimes we see it results into CSV files and things like that. And another
mhm.
part of and another use case for the DevOps. So imagine like a DevOps get a lot of tickets today for creating all kind of resources and all kind of automations to be executed on behalf of the developer, and they need to
Mhm.
document these kind of automation result into a software catalog. So the self-service part needs to play with the software catalog so that DevOps can
Nice.
be in charge and be in control of what's going on and what got provisioned and what is the state, so they can get comfortable with allowing developers to be autonomous as an individual.
Nice, nice. All right, fantastic. Now we've been covering Backstage, the open source Backstage project for a while. This is a developer platform, and recently they announced a paid plugin program, and I'm very curious to see what Port's take is on that program and on Backstage in general.
Yeah. So I think it makes a lot of sense. The paid plugins they offer around software maturity, role-based access control, and the rest are really important building blocks of an IDP. So indeed,
Hmm.
some of the paid plugins are the core to developer portals, right? So role-based access control is a big deal for both for the software catalog side and from the developer self-service action side. So on the data access side, you don't want to reflect everything to anyone, right? You want to encapsulate the access and to make sure that everyone gets what they need. Um,
Hmm.
and the maturity part is even more interesting, right? So measuring the production readiness or health within the context of a service or a resource will become a primary method of prioritizing work and creating a culture with good standards, engineering quality inside. But I think it's really interesting because Backstage is an open source project, but it indicates that Backstage is not a classic open source project. It has commercial interest,
Hmm.
and thus it needs to be evaluated accordingly as a commercial product.
Right. Terrific. Yeah, let's dive into that for a second. Now, I'm a CEO of my company, and I like what you're saying. I like what Port is saying. Um, how does Port interact with the customers? Is this a cloud-based offering? Is this software? How much of it is just off the shelf, and how much is it? Do I have to consult with you guys, or explain to me what's going to happen if I'm interested as a customer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, Port is a SaaS solution, so you can get started
Hmm.
right away. We have a self-service option to try it out yourself. As a no-code platform, so again, Port is not opinionated. We are not telling you how your software catalog should look like or your self-service actions should look like. We provide very good like templates and building blocks from best practices we saw in the industry, so you can use them off the shelf. So you can get into Port and you can start assemble very quickly your software catalog and your self-service actions. we do help you if you need any help. We are available on Slack and by email. But once you get the gist of it, you can get up and running really quick. And the average time to set up into something that is valuable is around 30 minutes.
All right. And I believe we're also going to be posting on the new Stack a demonstration video of how this works. And we'll link to that from this particular, the write-up from this particular podcast. And so you can take a look in depth how this works. Finally, I'm very curious. This is a really emerging field for us. And it's still, I guess, still kind of a lot of changes happening. Where do you see internal developer platforms 2 years from now? Or what's the future here?
Yeah. So first of all, I have to say that we are facing a huge revolution, and we are entering the platform era, right? Like this is a new era. We had the move from IT to DevOps, and now we are moving from DevOps with platform engineering, right? So I think in 2 years from now, IDPs will become standard with every organization. So imagine like you'll have the Git provider, CI/CD, infrastructure as code, cloud, and internal developer portals, which is going to be a very important platform within your stack. So it will be used and this is like in terms of the like where it goes. And I really think that the IDP is not just for the developers, but will be used by almost every persona in the organization, including security analysts that needs to understand vulnerable packages and where they are currently running. Also salespeople that needs to provision a demo environment, product managers, QAs, developers, SREs, platform engineers, DevOps, and the sky's the limit.
Nice. All right. Fantastic. I think we're about running out of time, but this has been fast. This is so much good information here. And take a look at, we have a number of articles being sponsored by Port that'll be coming out in the next few weeks that really explore platform engineering in depth. So this is the first step. Go to the new Stack and check out the additional material that Port has provided for more information. And Zohar, thank you so much for taking time to get us up to speed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.